Okay, so in this video we are going to have a look at some of the calculations that you have to be able to do. And the first one we're going to look at is calculating relative formula mass, which is given the symbol MR. Okay, when you're asked to calculate relative formula mass, you'll always be given a chemical formula. So for example, H2O is a chemical formula, and you need to add together the mass of each of the elements in the formula. So the elements that you've got in the formula are hydrogen, okay, and you've got oxygen. And you will be told, but you can also find this information in your periodic table, the mass of each of these elements, okay? And if I look at my key, I can see that the top number tells you the mass of the element. So the mass of beryllium is 9, the mass of lithium would be 7, the mass of boron is 11. Okay, we're interested in hydrogen, the top number is 1, and oxygen, the top number is 16. So hydrogen has a mass of 1, oxygen has a mass of 16. But you will be given those numbers in the question. Okay, what you need to do is get the total mass of all of the elements in the formula. If I look at my formula, H2O, it tells me I've got 2 hydrogens and only 1 oxygen. So when I'm getting the total mass, I'm going to go 1 plus 1 plus 16. I've got 1 plus 1 because I have got 2 hydrogens, and then just 1 16 because I've only got 1 oxygen. Okay, so it's H2O. I add all that up and I get the relative formula mass equals 18. If I look at another example, NaOH. In NaOH, I've got 3 elements. I've got sodium, I've got oxygen, and I've got hydrogen. Okay, I know I've got 3 different elements because I've got 3 capital letters, and each capital letter represents a different element. Okay, if I looked at sodium on my periodic table, I will see that the mass, which is the top number, of sodium is 23. But again, you will be given this information in your question. Sodium is 23, oxygen is 16, hydrogen is 1. To get the total mass, I need to add those numbers together. I've just got 1 sodium, so it's 23, plus 1 oxygen is 16, and 1 hydrogen is 1. So I'm adding these numbers together, and you've got a calculator. 23 and 1 is 24, and 16 equals 40. That's the formula mass. If I wanted to do CH4, okay, the C stands for carbon. That's got a mass of 12. The H stands for hydrogen. It's got a mass of 1. In my formula, I've got 1 carbon, so I write down 12. But I have got 4 hydrogens. So it's going to be 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Okay, that is my C, and this is my H4. Gives me a total mass of 16. Sorry, up here. That's my sodium. That's my oxygen. That's my hydrogen. NaOH, the formula that I've been given. Here, CH4, which is the formula that I've been given. If I do another one, H2SO4, okay? Hydrogen is 1, sulfur is 32, and oxygen is 16. These are the mass numbers from the periodic table that you will be provided with in the question. I need to add all these numbers together. From my formula, I can see I've got 2 hydrogens, so that's going to be 1 plus 1. I've got 1 sulfur, 32, and I've got 4 oxygen, so it's 16, 16, 16, and 16. That represents my H2, 1 plus 1. I've got 32 for my sulfur, and the reason I've got 4 16s is because I've got 4 oxygens. So H2SO4. H2, each hydrogen is worth, or it has a mass of 1. 1 sulfur with a mass of 32, and 4 oxygens, each which has a mass of 16. I'm adding all of those numbers together. I am not multiplying, okay? You are trying to find the total mass of the elements in the formula. If you want the total mass, you add the individual masses together, okay? When we were doing this, we were looking at bowls of fruit a lot, and if I asked you, to calculate the total mass of a bowl of fruit, and I told you had an orange, which was 100 grams, and an apple, which was 50 grams, and a banana, which was 50 grams, you would add those masses together. You go 100 plus 50 is 200. You're doing exactly the same here. You're given the masses. All you need to do is add them together to find the total mass. When you are adding them together, it's really important that you look at how many of each element you've got in your formula. Okay, I've got 2 hydrogens, so it's going to be 1 plus 1, 1 sulfur, and then 4 oxygen, so it's 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16. Okay, or you can do 16 times 4. Okay, I'm going to give you some to do yourself. Okay, it's important that you recognize these questions. So remember, this is called relative formula mass. So the question will say, calculate the relative formula mass, which has this symbol of, and then they'll ask you to calculate the relative formula mass of something. So I'm going to get you to calculate the relative formula mass of CO2. I want you to try Cl2, and I want you to try C2H4. Okay, I'm going to give you the big numbers from the periodic table. Okay, carbon is 12. Oxygen is 16, chlorine is 35.5, and then down here, carbon is 12, hydrogen is 1. So they're the numbers from the periodic table. They represent the mass of the atoms. You will be given that in the question. So read the formula, figure out how many of each element you've got, then add these numbers together to work out the relative formula mass. Press pause and do those 3 for yourself. Okay, so I've done the answers out here. CO2, the relative formula mass is 44. You've got 1 carbon with a mass of 12, 2 oxygens that each have a mass of 16, 44 in total. Cl2, I've got 2 chlorines, each have a mass of 35.5. I add those together and I get 71. C2H4, 2 carbons, each with a mass of 12, 4 hydrogens, which is 1, 1, 1, and 1. Add all that up together and I get 28. You're adding, you are not multiplying, okay? And that is relative formula mass. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a formula triangle that contains relative formula mass. It's the only formula triangle that you need to learn for chemistry. It's got mass, it's got formula mass, which is what we've just calculated, and it has got moles. And you need to make sure that you can actually read formula triangles. You need to learn it off and you need to be able to read it. Okay? If I want the formula for mass, I cover mass. And whatever I'm left with is the formula. So when I cover mass, I'm left with formula mass times moles. So my formula for mass is going to be equal to formula mass times moles. If I want the formula for moles, then I cover moles. And what I'm left with, mass divided by formula mass, that is my formula. So I'm going to write moles equals mass divided by formula mass. And they're the only 2 formulas that you need to take from that formula triangle. All right. If we look at some sample questions, you could be asked, because I've actually just drawn out some sample questions. Okay. So what is the mass of 2 moles of sodium? Okay, I am being asked about mass. My formula for mass, when I cover my mass in my triangle, is formula mass times moles. Okay, so mass equals formula mass times moles. I am told in my question that I have got 2 moles. I am also told that my formula mass is 23. I need to multiply those 2 numbers together. Formula mass, 23, multiplied by the number of moles, which is 2, and I get 46 grams. Okay, my unit of mass is grams. The next one, what is the mass of 4 moles of NaOH? Again, if I'm asked for mass, my formula is going to be formula mass times moles. The formula mass, I'm told in my question, is 40. The number of moles, I'm told, is 4. 40 times 4, 160, and it's got the unit grams because I'm calculating mass. The next one, how many moles are in 30 grams of sodium? This time I'm being asked for moles. I go to my formula triangle and I see moles is mass divided by formula mass. So I'm going to write that down. Moles equals mass divided by formula mass. I'm given mass in my question, 30 grams, that's my mass. And I'm given the formula mass is 23. Bless me. On my calculator, I'm going to do 30 divided by 23. And I get 1.30, okay? And that is the number of moles. The last one, how many moles are in 50 grams of NaOH? Again, if I'm being asked for moles, my formula is mass divided by formula mass. Mass I'm given in the question, 50 grams. Formula mass I'm given in the question is 40. 50 divided by 40 is 1.25 moles. Okay, so know your formula triangle and know the two formulas from it. Okay, and then other than that, you're either going to be dividing or you're going to be multiplying and you'll be given the numbers. So it should be relatively straightforward as long as you know your formulas. Okay, you will have a calculator, so make sure that you use it. I'm just going to give you a few of these to do for yourself, because I've written out 4 questions. First 2 you're asked to calculate moles, the second 2 you're asked to calculate mass. Using that formula triangle and the numbers that I've given you in the question, please complete these 4 questions. Press pause, do them for yourself, and press play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, so I've worked them out. For the first one, you're asked for moles, which is mass divided by formula mass, which is 40 divided by 44 equals 0.90. The next one, you're still asked for moles, so it should be mass, which is 100 divided by formula mass is 40. 100 divided by 40 is 2.5 moles. What's the mass of 6 moles? When you're doing mass, it's the number of moles, which is 6, times the formula mass, which is 24. 6 times 24 is 144 grams. And then what is the mass of 0.2 moles of sulfur? 0.2 is the number of moles. Multiply that by the formula mass. 0.2 times 32 is 6.4 grams. Okay, I'm going to make another video with more calculation questions in it, going through 2 different types of calculation questions.